Hey, what's up guys, Zokley, and we're going to be playing some more Rome 2. This is going to be an interesting battle that faces kind of the traditional Rome 2 armies against armies from Empire Divided. So it turns out I dropped into a multiplayer battle, and we're facing off against the Gothi and the revamped roster for Armenia. So I was like, wait, how do you do that? And apparently it's a pretty easy trick to do. All you have to do is save an army composition, go into multiplayer battles, and just load up that army composition, and it allows you to do kind of cross-era battles. So that's kind of what we're going to be seeing here. Didn't quite know how the balance would work out, but I guess we'll see that. So let's start with my side over here. So I'm going to be deploying as the Epirus here. Pretty cool force. Don't end up using them too often, but they are fun as a Macedonian army. Great cav, great skirmishers, and a nice pike line. So up front, I'm going to have a series of mercenary Cretan archers. So 3 of those backed up by some of the elite Aspis Companion Cav, really good against infantry, and then a Hellenic Royal Cavalry General with the lances here to help take out enemy cav. But this is going to be stuff to be thrown into the infantry blobs, grind through those guys, and do a lot of pain. So these guys are moving up. It's a flexible wing in support of the Cretan archers, and this can push up, deal some damage, and drop back. The main core here of my troops is going to be composed of 3 standard hoplites, 2 mercenary Etruscan hoplites, and then 3 of these mercenary Samnite warriors, one of them with, well, I guess 2 of them with some chevs, this one with 1, this one with 2, so they're going to be a little bit better. But the mercenary Samnites are pretty renowned warriors here, so they're pretty sturdy. And then this big hoplite core, just blocks of infantry that I brought along to be sturdy anvils, and my hammers are going to be also the elephant that I'm bringing along, as well as the Aspis cavalry. I also deployed some flaming balls here just because I had the option as a defender, but I'm not going to be using them. Just a little fun thing I did. Also, my army continues. So like I said, we have some mercenary Indian war elephants. Pretty cool to have these at the army's disposal. And I have 2 Agrion and Axemen. Alexander the Great made great use of these in supporting roles. And so they're going to be used in support of my Greek Scorpion. I'm the only one who's brought a single piece of artillery. And sometimes it's nice to bring one of these to the battlefield. They are relatively maneuverable, and they can fire long range, and they can pick off clusters of units, in particular cavalry. So going against Armenia, which I figured would have cataphracts, these guys would be nice for keeping them at bay. So you can see it's already essentially, you know, got the enemy in check. Once they move forward, they're going to be within range of my units. Anyways, let's take a look at my ally here. He is the army of Macedon. He does have a more standard army filled to the brim with pikemen, all up to the front, so he may be outmaneuvered. He's got to be a little bit careful. And then behind that, he has some Thoreos spears. These guys can throw javelins, and then also close quarters. Thorax swordsmen, which are decent infantry. Shield bearers in the back, and then his own mercenary Cretan archer corps, and some Rhodian slingers with a little bit of citizen cav. So he is more of a stationary army with a lot of pikes and just some minor cav. He should presumably get outmaneuvered by Armenia, which we can take a look at now. But Armenia didn't bring that many cavalry, as you would expect. 2 Azat Knights, which are actually pretty strong, and then 2 noble horse archers, and they do have some armor on them, so they can trade pretty decently, a couple volleys with the enemy, and they'll be good for getting around the flanks, harassing the citizen cav, and just trying to strip away the mobility of Macedon. The main line that he has here is actually going to be some cheap hillmen to absorb, I guess, the volleys of archers. Then behind that, some armored axe warriors, lots of these guys, and tons of armor on them. He also has some noble Armenian archers, which in a previous battle we saw were pretty powerful, and then he has some armored Armenian pikemen of his own. So that's it. The army I'm facing off against is going to be the Gothi. He brought a lot of these Gothic archers, 5 of them, which is going to outnumber my 3 Cretan archers. He also has some elite spears up front. The Grithungi elite spears here, pretty well armored. They should be able to fend off my cavalry in the initial engagements. So I have to make sure I get rid of those, but with big hulking spears, it's going to be, and shields, sorry, it should be hard to take them out. And his core, he's got a bunch of Oathsworn. He's got a bunch of Gothi and Tervingi warriors. So pretty scary composition that he's got going on here. So the archers can strip away my support, and then he can come crash again with a lot of infantry. So I got to take this rather carefully, and that's what we're going to be seeing this battle. Also in the cavalry department, he has 4 of these Gothic lancers, or 3 Gothic lancers and 1 Githungi cavalry, which is a little bit more powerful. And that can actually pretty decently trade with my guys. Perhaps not in sustained combat, but the initial charge will go to the shot cav. So you got to be careful, and that's why I'm pulling over with one of these hoplite forces. So with that being said, let's take a look at what's going on here. So I'm pivoting forward with this Greek Scorpion unit in order to try and maybe choose some targets. He is holding his fire. I do want to hit some of these Gothic Lancers if need be. And yeah, there you go. I'm going to start to give a movement order to go after those guys. And then meanwhile, I'm going to have a staggered formation here because I know the enemy wants to steamroll me. And if I present a front line, they will probably bowl me over. So what I want to do is a defense in depth. The first step of that is going to be the skirmishing phase. So I move up one of my archer units, position him in the woods, so in case he takes return fire, he'll be trading favorably. So he's going to just start to harass the front line, not do too much damage, just start to ping those spears. And then if he runs into too much pressure, I can pull back to the hoplites and pull back to more archers, and I can just do a staggered defense with cavalry here to strike at enemy forces if they get too close. So that's kind of what I like to do, and then the reserves here, just waiting for the main battle to ensue. Meanwhile, my Macedonian ally is kind of bottling himself up here with archers and slingers to fend off the cavalry. It looks like he did just that without taking too many losses. Some of that may have been pinging, yeah, some of the citizen cav, but overall okay. It looks like he's moving forward to keep pace with my guys. So there he goes. Greek Scorpion gonna move forward, and it looks like those bolts are gonna start landing in and amongst the cavalry in pretty deep formations. So they should be able to pluck out some early wins. And look at this chieftain here. Looks awesome, cool. So almost sniped there. So he's got to be a little bit careful. But yeah, I want to snipe the lancers. Going after the infantry perhaps later, but if I can strip his cavalry advantage, that'll really give me free reign on my companion cav. And if we go back in the center, it looks like the enemy does want to shut this down. So the noble horse archers did come in, wanting to get some fire on my guys. But that's why the Agrionians here are for close support, able to chase these guys off without too much trouble. Not the extreme range to deal with them, but as the enemy does part ways, I can change targets and fire right into them. So I'm going to harass these guys and force them away. And yeah, they are going to try and do some Parthian shot into me. Looks like my Agrionis are going to get some nice armor-piercing blows. So these guys not trading as well as they would like. They are starting to pick off some of my crew members, but I have just enough to fill the ranks here. Luckily, a couple more of those volleys, he may be able to strip me of my health. And yeah, it looks like they're taking pretty punishing blows in that engagement. So he decides to be a little bit more aggressive with these hillmen, but these are very light troops, and that's where I can activate the heavy mercenary Indian elephants that would tear these guys apart, especially with the close support of the Macedonian army. So we're able to rebuff that, hold my position here in the center, but the pressure continues. These guys are slowly inching forward. We already have 43 kills, which is good for these guys, but they're down to half strength. So the enemy armies are moving up. I'm going to leave a hoplite force here in the woods. So this is something you'll often see me do with my staggered defenses, is I kind of have to sacrifice units in order to cover my retreat. So at this point, what I've done is I put a hoplite force in the woods, and you would think, hey, that's completely sacrificial. Why are you leaving him here? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First is, if I pull out at this point, I'm going to get shot to death in the back. So I'm going to leave him here in an advantageous position in the woods, and what he's going to be meant to do is draw fire from the archers. And take a look at this. A single unit is halting this entire force, buying me time to redeploy, pull back the Scorpion units, and get ready for all this. Another thing it's going to do is it's going to get him to waste a lot of his preliminary volleys. So I do want to save my my other units from the potentially devastating blows of his javelins. You know, these are javelins that could be used on cavalry if they get too close. The archer fire could be used against my own archers, so I'm more than happy to have him sink a lot of stuff less cost effectively into these hoplites. Another thing that could happen is if he does pull in with some of his infantry, they're going to curl around this, and my archers, which are in close support, are then going to be able to shoot at his troops who have gotten closer, while his own archers are still out of range. So I'm kind of using this to control his entire army. So it looks like a bit of a wonky position, but it's really playing to my advantage here. It also allows me to, you know, keep his entire army in check, keep the archers at their distance, and allow me here to focus fire on some of these Gothic spearwomen. Oh, I actually didn't notice he had some of the spearwomen in his ranks. So cool. So yeah, anyways, this is just a play to keep in at the distance that I want and allow my archers to trade more cost effectively. I'm also going to start pivoting more of my guys over to this flank, anticipating that it's going to be a fight of me against the Gothi, and Macedon can fend off the Armenian forces pretty handily. Cavalry are going to be going wide with these Azat Knights, so he has to be careful, and it looks like he's going to be doing just that with some of those ranged units. But now that I have the Greek Scorpion pulled back and a little bit safer, I can resume its firing activity, try and snipe at the general, and maybe even go after some of the Turingi warriors or Oathsworn. Another thing I can do here, now that I have all my archers massed up, and I don't have to worry about any of my archers, I can switch to heavy shot, which is more reduced range, And usually you wouldn't want to do that against enemy archers because they'll just outrange you. But here, like I said, with the position of the hoplites, keeping the enemy out of range, and now I can switch to heavy shot and just fire straight into these units here and really punish them. Start to take out more and more of those ranks, and this is the only thing really protecting him on this side here. If I can get rid of these spears, I can come in with my hoplites and even cavalry and bowl through these guys. Another thing that I'm noticing is, hey, he has all this cavalry here. They're just stationed here, and I might as well just take more and more pot shots against them. Gonna focus on his Gothic Lancers. Not very well armored, so that's gonna take out huge swaths of them, and then here you go. This hoplite force down to about half strength, and Oathsworn are gonna be thrown into them, but take a look at this. Just as they're curving around the flanks, what I can do is I can tell my archers to then fire in support of this, and I even have my Scorpion here that can fire along the length of these guys. Some of those bolts coming in, so I'm gonna fix his Oathsworn in position and hopefully make them take more damage and trade less cost effectively than otherwise they would. I've also been able to force back his cavalry, which is opening up an opportunity for me to start to own this flank and really focus in on his Gothic Spearwomen. I'm also pulling in some hoplites for close support because I anticipate a battle is getting underway. And yeah, take a look at this. So he shredded these hoplites, but they've done their role. Actually getting 0 kills, a little bit sad on their part. But they're there just to buy time for the army. And take a look at this. Now I have a full Oathsworn unit, completely out of position, unsupported. And my archers and my Scorpions can start to fire into them. And this is where you're going to see the trades happening a little bit more beneficially. And they're even in a position to get charged by my Aspis companions if they get too close. There you go. They're going to turn about. And that's exactly where my archers are going to fire. So here is going to be retribution for what they did to my hoplites. Lots of damage there. And finally on this flank, he decided to charge forward with his Gothic Spearwoman, but my hoplites should be able to take them out pretty well. His cav is going to try and threaten to get into my cavalry. In this type of situation, you shouldn't take that engagement because it's going to be less cost effective. Shot cav against just melee cav, no need to take that engagement, so all I'm going to do is just pull back and make sure I have enough cover. My archers here are also in a nice position where they can just continue to fire and deal with these Gothic Lancers rather than rushing into a fight. Might as well take the more beneficial trade here with my archers. So they defended on all sides by, 2 hoplite forces are going to be good. There is a threat to the left flank, so that's where I'm going to keep some of my cavalry massed up. But now, knowing that that's a threat, all I have to do is shuffle over my hoplites. If anyone's going to trade with these cavalry, it might as well be spear-armed infantry as opposed to my cav. So these are just kind of threats in being, but I'm not going to take this assault needlessly. So there you go. He's going to be kept in check, knowing that hoplites are here and knowing that these archers can fire into him. So this is a pretty cost-effective trade that you can see. Yep, all my archers are going to turn around, and he's dissuaded from that assault without me losing any cavalry. Again, they're going to be held in reserve. Some Azat Knights now also going to be contributing to this fight, hoping to push through. And so my archers are kind of caught flat-footed, which is why the enemy is moving forward, because I don't have any fire support setup. But also, what I can do is just pull back. You'll notice I'm operating well in advance of my main army. These hoplites here meant to dissuade cavalry charges, and then now I have a clear path back, guarded by my cavalry to just continue to kite. Also on this flank, you'll notice he's turning his side to me, which is going to allow Greek Scorpion units to fire right into the side of some of these big units, Tervingi blobs, and really punch through a lot of that. But I have to sustain this wave as it comes through. So again, a sacrificial hoplite unit left here in the advance, and they're going to be just allowing my whole army to pull back and cover. And then I have my main line of mercenary Samnite warriors going to be backed up by Indian war elephants to dissuade an all-out charge against these guys. And then I also have my Agrena Axemen, armor-piercing guys who can kind of deal with anything that pulls up through here. Meanwhile, the engagement is underway here. He's getting pretty close. The enemy has a lot of Armenian archers that can start to take out these pikemen formations, so he really needs to shuffle over his skirmishing body, which is focused on the wrong area. But I think trade-wise, he should be okay there with the pikes. He's not going to be dying all too quickly. Over here, the enemy does surround my hoplites. They were tangoing with the Gothic Spearwoman, and so he charges in from the rear with the cavalry. But again, throwing these units in the advance does force the enemy into these awkward situations where this is almost a trap. Yes, they're going to destroy a hoplite force, but look at how I'm going to punish him. Archers behind here, and they're going to fire straight into massed units of the Gothic Lancers. So I'll trade I'll trade a hoplite force for all of these Gothic Lancers taking focus fire from my archers, and we'll see within a couple of volleys just how punishing this is going to be. I also have some of my own hoplites coming in from the back. And yeah, all the while, I'm just trading hoplites for cavalry. And that's a trade I'll take because it means my cavalry are going to stay that much more topped off and ready for the main engagement. On the pullout as well, they're going to be taking a lot of losses, and my hoplite still standing. So this is going to be pretty beneficial. So here are the hoplites still standing with their own reinforcements, going to take out these Gothic spearwomen. In the center, I charge his Grithungi elite spears with some mercenary Etruscan hoplites. Should be able to hold okay. Did well on the charge. And then as his guys punch through, you'll notice without a main battle line for him to charge through, his guys are kind of going to be caught swarming around my fixed hoplite formations. And what this means is, you know, anyone who goes around the flank is going to turn their side to potentially archers. And look at this big open area that I've created here. This is a cavalryman's dream. So once these guys pull through, where is he going to move? I have archers on all flanks. I can get cavalry around the rear. So this is a trap that I like to set up. He's also sending everything into this blob here, which is going to once again destroy my hoplites. They would have probably preferred to face forward, but with the close support of the archers, and notice how close I'm able to get these archers without retreating them. That's all because I've been able to really reduce the cavalry numbers where I don't have to worry about them too much. And the fact that I have tons of cavalry in close support, this means that these guys can just continue to fire point blank. And that's going to be into the general. So here, yep, able to completely dissuade them. And they're swarming my hoplites. They're losing, but look at all this archers, all these archer units in close support. Going to fire into the backs of these Oathsworn and Gothic Axe Warriors. Going to be trading really, really well. There you go, right into the exposed backs. Over here, one unit of mercenary Etruscan hoplites holding out against, what is that, 5 units? Crazy. And that means that my guys have more numerical advantage elsewhere, and I can use that to charge in with my cavalry. So Aspis companions coming in against the Gothic forces, and then I'm going to pull up with my reserves. Greek Scorpion is out of ammo at this point, but it was trying to fire into this blob, doing fairly decently. And the Aspis here are going to start to clean up. These units don't have the spears, unlike a lot of skirmishers that you'll see in Empire Divided. So that's going to be nice, although they are, you know, pretty deep in terms of rank, so they can fire point blank into me. Meanwhile, what's happening? Looks like the combined force here has destroyed my hoplites, but these guys, Turingi Oathsworn, all have taken a pretty big ding, and then my archers here can continue to fire. Meanwhile, I have my full strength elite infantry ready to trade with these guys, and again, I'm not taking a fight I don't need. These archers are out of ammo, so I'm going to go ahead and throw them to the front lines because I want to bait out volleys, and they're going to be, again, sacrificial. I've used them to their utmost. There you go, they're taking volleys, and they're just going to stand here. Actually, it looks like I have a little more ammo, but anyways, it's just supposed to be a tempting target to bait his guys in. Here comes this main line coming in, not quite sure how to engage, and all the while they're kind of dilly-dallying, I've got my armor-piercing Agrionians on the flank of the Gothic Warband. I'm going to fire straight into them. And again, punish them rather heavily. In the back, we're punching through with one of these Aspis forces. 116 kills, so really tying down his guys. He does have some elite spears chasing after them. So I will be probably defeated here soon. But that's okay. It's just buying time. And mind you, I also have... Ooh, let's go ahead and watch this. So they charge into my archers, which were bait. And that's going to soak up the advanced charge of the enemy. And now I can charge in with my Lancers, my Aspis, and really trade cost effectively. So 8 kills already on these, and we'll watch this. As well as getting some infantry here. So we're going to just destroy this general force. And then the third one is going to go along, swooping around the rear. Hoplites still holding strong. The enemy not quite sure if they want to engage or not. And this is really great for me because my archers are going to continue to ping, going to continue to do damage on this flank, and charge in with the Agrian Axemen as well. And then also these Indian War Elephants, probably the main thing that's dissuading these guys from charging in. So that is great. Meanwhile, over here, we're going to punch through. Mercenary Samnite Warriors are going to be dispatched to deal with these weakened Turingi Oathsworn. And now my cavalry is running rampant around the flanks. Cavalry is no longer a threat. I'm going to be chasing through them. And we're going to lance these these infantry who are trying to retreat from my cavalry on the other flank. Some of the Armenian armored horse archers are going to try and stem the damage, getting some good shots in against my guys, and he's pulling in some reinforcements. So this is an entire army trying to pivot over to deal with me, but we're trading really well. The noble cav here, the general, down to 5 men. If we can blast him, that'll be great. And it looks like over here, finally the enemy decides to come in, but sacrificing Cretan archers who are out of ammo at this point. Gonna continue to fire, gonna continue to get some preliminary volleys, and just biding my time. Again, this flank being destroyed piecemeal, letting the hoplites, or I guess Samnite warriors, hold their own. And then now I'm finally going to commit the mercenary Indian elephants, just as he thinks he can get a free charge against my guys here. Gonna get a flank strike. And now this is exactly where you want to use these elephants, because they're actually pretty susceptible without the armor to mass damage in the form of precursor javelins or archer fire. But now, at this point in the battlefield, they're going to be nigh on unbeatable. So this is exactly why I wanted to wait so long to commit them. Over here, I also have to defend against units in the rear. So Agri and Axeman trying to trail them, get a couple volleys, and they're going to probably go after my archers. So I'm redeploying some Samnite warriors and other units, but overall, pretty happy about this. Noble Horse Archer is going to try and engage, chasing down my Aspis companions. I feel like I'm flat-footed and caught, so I'm going to turn about and deal with this. Not the best, because he has nearby support troops, but it's an engagement I kind of had to take. And spears are going to get in it as well, so this is a pretty tricky situation, but that's why I'm coming in immediately with more Aspis companions, especially the elephants here to try and save the day. You'll also notice that I'm going to scoot around the flank. No sense sending them into the main brawl. They would much rather be around the flank to hit the infantry in the back, and they're going to be able to keep pace with some of these horse archers and probably even take them out here. Yep, there you go. Going to cut them off, take them out, and then the elephants are going to come up to target the rear. I do want to take out these spears first. They're pretty low, and they're going to be the biggest threat to me, so we're going to try and take them out first. See a lot of my guys starting to get dehorsed here. So this is a pretty bad engagement, being caught out in the center. But luckily, a lot of the cavalry threat was dealt with early on. The spears are weak, so it's not as punishing as it could have otherwise been. Hellenic Royal Cav dropping to about 3rd strength, but 100 kills, pretty good. And then the charge continues down into the middle, pouring in with Samnite warriors with a lot of kills on them. And then here, the Indian War Elephants did their damage in the middle. And they're going to charge into the flank of these Tervingi Oathsworn, who are fighting Etruscan hoplites, so this is really, really good. They're rampaging a bit and out of control, and it looks like they're going to do some damage to my general, unfortunately, so he is going to recover somewhat. Pull out of this, but I have to worry because there are some Azat Knights who could deal with him, so he's going to kind of circle up with these units. The enemy's going to try and charge after them. Luckily, I do have some support to try and save my general. Not quite sure which unit he is, but 9 men left, and he's still holding out, so I think we should be able to deal with these Azat Knights. Enough infantry and close support. Oh, and this is a great strike with the elephants against the Azat Guard here. They do have spears, so I expect them to take me out, but at least they're not getting a clean strike against me. He really wants to go after my general, so I'm swarming in with the infantry. Hoplites here also engaging. And the Armenians have, contributed a fair amount of units over to this fight. Azat Knights, infantry, generals, tons of units, which means that the main engagement up through the front is going to be a bit in the favor of Macedon. He doesn't have to engage as cleanly or cost effectively because I've drawn away so much support. And the front lines as well, pikes are going to try and trade, but our own pike wall is forcing the enemy back. And he does have a lot of guys here, armored axe warriors, but if he can't find a way to get these pikemen off the field, there's no way they're going to be able to beat that out. And it looks like even the thorax swordsmen getting a bit impetuous, and they're going to charge forward. Take some javelin for their troubles, but still, they should be pretty good to penetrate through like this. And yeah, trading pretty well. Surprised to see Armenian pikes, but it is kind of cool to see that matchup. And yeah, here comes the charge down the center. Even pikemen charging in after them in close support. He should be able to crash through the front lines here pretty soon. But meanwhile, on my side, the battle continues. Azat Guard still holding strong, and they are silver chevron now after having killed a lot of men and a lot of elephants. Elephants are routing, but 214 kills to their name. Pretty good stuff. My general was also killed in this engagement, so this unit trading very, very well. But the rest of our guys, still some numbers to us, and we're going to rally, and we're going to continue to take chunks out of the enemy units. Elite Azat Guard. Pretty good. So charging through the front, and then we're going to cycle around with the Aspis Companion Cav in the back to hammer and anvil. Back over here, there's still a lot of roaming Armenian archers. They've gotten a fair amount of kills, but now they're a bit exposed. But luckily, they don't have any cavalry to tie them down. So they could potentially do a lot of damage if they can circle around and deal with the thorax swordsman. It looks like, once again, the Armenian player is going to try and focus on my guys. He gets a couple volleys against my Aspis, but I pull them out just in time. But again, a lot of stuff being committed to my side. I don't know why they're so determined to take me out here. perhaps trying to save general, but it does go down against these Samnite warriors. Fighting against armored axe warriors, I should be okay here. 105 men to 106. Yeah, my guys are better, although they are starting to get tired. And some allies coming in here to tip the tide, but with cavalry in close support, this should allow me to destroy this pretty handily. So here we go. I'm going to line up, make sure we're in the widest formation, and then circle the troops for a nice charge with about a dozen men. And that is really going to tip the tides there. A lot of them knocked to the ground. They're going to start to hammer away with some of their axes, which have pretty good armor piercing, I believe, but this cavalry force is doing okay. 192 kills already, and they're going to pull through my own men as opposed to pulling through the enemy the other way, which is going to save their numbers. So still at 16 guys, and they can circle back around for another strike and hopefully top off at 200 kills. So that's going to be pretty nice here. Archers still in the back, but they don't really have any clean places to shoot. Sort of into my flanks, but they're also hitting some of the Azak Guard here, so kind of running out of options. Meanwhile, the Macedonian forces are just circling, isolating, and obliterating the final Armenian troops. Rather easy mopping up operations, I would say here. And in the back, any troops that have penetrated through are just going to get fired at by the archers in the rear. We clean up a unit in the back with the help of the cavalry, and I believe that got them to 200 kills. And then meanwhile, the force over here breaks, and it's surprisingly, it's a draw. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but that was definitely going to be a victory for our part. So let's end the replay. Take a look at some of the final stats. So, yeah, rather impressive fight from the Epirus here with 2,000 kills. That's more than the entire kills of the enemy army. So really cost-effective stuff. You'll notice that most of the kills here are cavalry, and that's due to how I use them, saving them really to the last moment until the anti-cavalry threats were dealt with, and then getting a lot of clean strikes. Same things with the archers, just sacrificing a couple hoplite units here and there to allow these guys to get more damage. Same thing with the Agrianis, getting on the flank, shooting at units, saving the mercenary Samnites and other elite troops, especially elephants, till again the enemy was worn out. Really makes these guys more cost effective at the end. Throw them in the beginning and you'll take a look at this force. All these elite Gothic archers would have destroyed elephant units, so that is the advantage of waiting there. My ally here did pretty good. Most of it seems to have been done by his archers, and then finally closing in for the kill with the thorax swordsman in that aggressive charge. Armenian player got a decent amount of kills, a lot of it from his archers, and these Azat Knights actually doing really good work in the Azak Guard as well. Silver Shev, again from killing my elephants, killing my general, doing a fair amount of damage overall. The rest of the troops, the Axe Warriors, doing okay, but the Gothi force here was pretty much pulled apart. The archers got chased down by Cav. These guys, Gothic Lancers, got shot at, and that left his infantry, which was a pretty good corps, traded well in and of itself, but ultimately ended up getting kind of caught out and run over by cavalry and elephants. So they could have done much better, but that's how things played out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.